At some point in life, every person asks themselves the same question, maybe quietly, in silence, or out loud in a moment of pain. What happens when we die? Is everything simply over? Does it go dark, like a film that suddenly ends? Or is death not the end at all, but merely a door, a passage into something we cannot grasp with our senses, but somehow already sense deep within? More and more scientists, doctors, and researchers around the world are devoting themselves to this very question. What many religions have taught for thousands of years is now gaining new relevance through modern physics, neuroscience, and case studies. Some speak of energy that never disappears, others of consciousness that continues to exist, even after the brain has long stopped functioning. And then there are those who remember a past life, children who name places they've never been, people who return and know things they shouldn't be able to know. In this Zeitgeist episode, we take a look at what might happen after the final breath. We'll show you documented cases, real testimonies, scientific theories, and the things that can't be measured, but perhaps can be felt, whether you believe in it or not. By the end of this video, you'll see the question of death through different eyes. Stay with us until the end, because maybe this knowledge will change how you think about life and what comes after. What if a small child suddenly says, "I once had another life," and begins to describe things they could never possibly know? Streets, people, a house, a place, long forgotten. These are exactly the kinds of accounts Dr. Ian Stevenson collected. The American psychiatrist devoted nearly 4 decades of his life to the study of reincarnation, not as a belief, but as a scientific question. In the 1960s, he traveled the world, spoke with families, listened closely, and documented every detail. And what he discovered was nothing short of astonishing. A boy in Japan claimed his name used to be Tadzor. He described a village no one around him had ever heard of. A house, a well, even his own funeral. When Stevenson took him to the place, the boy recognized everything, not vaguely, not hesitantly, with precision. He knew where the old tree once stood. He identified the neighbors. He described a storage shed that had once been there and was now gone. For him, it wasn't a mystery. It was memory. And this wasn't an isolated case. Stevenson documented over 2,000 such stories, across multiple continents, in vastly different cultures, all sharing one key element. The children described past lives with a clarity that left even skeptical observers speechless. These stories raise a quiet but powerful question. If a child can know such things, things no one ever taught them, then where do they come from? Is the subconscious mind far deeper than we realize? Or is there something within us that continues beyond the final breath? Stevenson himself remained cautious. He never spoke of proof, but of patterns that could no longer be denied, and of a phenomenon that deserves more than a shrug. It deserves genuine curiosity. Perhaps the understanding of life begins exactly where we've never dared to look. While psychologists study the memories of past lives, quantum physicists are asking a different question. What exactly is consciousness? Is it merely a product of our brain, or something independent that can exist beyond the body? Researchers at the University of Arizona have proposed a bold yet fascinating theory. They believe that our consciousness is stored in what are known as microtubules, tiny structures within our cells that transmit information not only biologically, but also quantum mechanically. According to their theory, when the body dies, this information doesn't vanish. It returns to the universe. Not lost, just transformed. Even the Max Planck Institute for Physics in Munich has made similar statements. Scientists there suggest that the physical reality we experience is only one level, a kind of filter through which our consciousness operates. And when that filter, the body, dissolves, what we truly are remains, not tangible, not visible, but alive, in another form, in another world. Ideas like these don't just reshape our view of death. They redefine what it means to be alive. Zeitgeist moment. Now ask yourself, quietly, just for you, have you ever lost someone and still felt their presence? Maybe just a moment, a scent, a feeling. Maybe you told yourself it was your imagination or chalked it up to coincidence. But what if it was more? What if consciousness does not obey boundaries? And what if something we love truly stays, not as memory, but as presence? Right there, where words fall silent. What happens in the final seconds of life? When the body goes still, the heart stops beating, and doctors declare someone clinically dead. Does something begin that we cannot measure, yet can experience? Thousands of people around the world report exactly this moment. A light that suddenly appears. A feeling of peace that embraces everything. Some see loved ones, people long since passed, welcoming them. Others float above their bodies, observing what's happening in the room, and later recount with accuracy who said what, even though they weren't supposed to be there anymore. One example is Sam Parnia, a researcher at New York University. He documents near-death experiences from patients who, during cardiac arrest, showed no measurable brain activity, and yet described events in the room. They heard conversations, felt presence, saw themselves. Parnia says these reports are not hallucinations. They are clear, often structured, and too similar to be coincidence. Again, the same question arises: where does the self end when the body has already shut down? Perhaps this is what's so hard to grasp, that consciousness may not be bound to biology, that our deepest essence, our thoughts, memories, our love, might continue to exist when all else fades. For many who have had a near-death experience, everything changes. They lose their fear of death and begin to see life differently, not as a straight line with a definite end, but as a passage, a transition that doesn't need to be explained to be felt. Imagine that everything you see, feel, and think exists only because you perceive it, not the other way around. That is precisely what American scientist Robert Lanza proposes with his theory of biocentrism. To him, death is not an end, but a shift in perspective. Life, he explains, does not emerge from matter, but from consciousness. And this consciousness, our true self, is not bound by space or time. It doesn't vanish when the body dies. It simply changes levels. Lanza compares it to a plant that keeps growing anew, not because it's copied, but because its essence endures. This idea is radical, yet it resonates, not only with philosophers, but also with certain branches of modern quantum physics, because the boundary between observer and reality appears to be thinner than we think. Some experiments even suggest, without consciousness there is no reality. And if that's true, then death is not what we believed. Not disappearance, not nothingness, but a continuation, in a way we can only faintly grasp today. Maybe that's the deeper question that lingers within us. If death isn't the end, what begins instead? And who are we truly when everything external falls away? If we are not the body, but awareness itself, how does that change our view of loss, of grief, and of life itself? It's a quiet truth, larger than words. And perhaps it's the very reason why we remember, why we search, and why we keep asking. Not to fear, but to understand. No matter who we are or where we come from, in the end we all face the same question. What remains when life ends? Maybe we don't have a final answer today. But one thing is certain: the truth doesn't wait in thought, but in experience. When that last moment comes, when everything falls silent, each of us will know what truly remains. Maybe light, maybe peace, maybe a reunion. The stories you heard today are not proof, but they are traces. And sometimes traces are enough to give hope. If this video touched you, share it with someone who is asking questions right now. Subscribe to Zeitgeist for more stories between science and soul, and let us know in the comments. What do you feel when you think about the end and what might come after? We'll see you in the next episode. Your Zeitgeist team.